Love lives here.
Right? So we've been talking for the past couple of weeks, and I've been sharing with you, that a belief, right? Especially last week, we talked about the idea of the anatomy of a situation. Remember that? Yeah? And so where do we start with the anatomy of a situation? We start with the facts. And then we step into the feelings, and then we step into the beliefs, because the feelings and the feelings kind of support the beliefs, right? And the beliefs may be what they are. But really what a belief is that it is a story that we tell that is wrapped around the fact of the matter. So our beliefs have a tendency, hey, James. Our beliefs have a tendency to follow the story that we make up about the facts of the matter and the story that we wrap things in, right? And the way we wrap stories around beliefs and what we make them mean is that, or we wrap stories around facts, and we make them mean something based on past experiences, correct? So if we have an experience or we have several experiences, and then it says, oh, okay, our mind starts to make meaning around this, especially when we're little, especially under the age of 10, because we can't really process anything really well, then what we're processing is we're making it mean something about me personally, something about ourselves personally, right? And from that point on, then that's the story we begin to tell, right? And then it becomes a belief. And then what happens when it becomes a belief, then what happens, we see the outpicturing of the belief, because the belief also has feeling behind it. We with me so far? Remembering this so far? Right? How are we doing? Good. All right. So, there was a situation yesterday. Right? Donald Trump was shot in the right ear. He bowed down, or he got down behind the podium. They subdued the person, they subdued the shooter. One individual died behind him, and two other were critically injured and taken to the hospital, right? That's the situation. That's the facts. He got up. He was all right. He was missing his shoes somehow. He was missing his hat, right? He was saying, I want my shoes. Let me get my shoes. Let me get my hat, right? Let me get my shoes. Let me get my hat. And the Secret Service was moving him off the stage. Yes? Off the platform. And as they were doing so, he raised his fist in the air and mouthed the word fight, fight, fight 3 times, right? And then the crowd started chanting, USA, USA, USA. And then they took him off. He's fine, right? He was checked out by a doctor. Everything is fine. He's fine, okay? So that's the sitch. That's the situation. Those are the facts of the situation. Now then, my beloveds, there are all kinds of feelings about this out there. And there are all kinds of beliefs out there, because there's all kinds of stories that people are making up about this, right? This incident. People are now making up stories. And so what do we know when we're making up stories? Stories are beliefs fueled by, or stories become our beliefs fueled by our feelings one way or another. And then we have the opportunity, do we not, to choose what we're going to do with the belief, choose what we're going to do, choose how we're going to respond to what is going on. Is this correct? Right? Okay. So my beloveds, there are, did you know this? There are 125 plus tools for transformation and thriving on our website. Yeah. And if you had read the email this week, you'd already know that. So that also clues me into who's read and who has not read. Oops. See, you didn't know there was going to be a test on the email, did you? Right? We have 125 plus tools for thriving, tools for transformation, spiritual tools, practical tools, tools to help you deal with and experience and go deeper with the ideas and concepts and principles that we teach here at Centers for Spiritual Living. And guess what? How many questions are there, those that read the email? Do you remember? A lot. There we go. That's good. Good save. A lot. There's over 600 questions there for you to look at. Frank knows because he looks at them every week, because the men's group works with him every week, right? But there are over 600 questions there for you to use to spark a discussion with your friends, with your neighbors, with your spouses, with your dog, whomever, right? Maybe your parrot will talk back to you, I don't know. But there are over 600 questions. And if you don't want to talk about those with anybody, guess what? They work really well as journal prompts for you to investigate and go deeper within yourself. How you feeling about that, James? He just gave me a lot of homework. Yeah, right? So when I ask you what's in your toolbox, what I also shared with you this week is we have, since 2022, have been posting every week the tools. We've been posting the questions, and we've left them up so that you can have them and access them whenever as a resource for you. And why do we do that? Why do we publish these tools? Well, one, if we are going to live out the mission of awakening, or the purpose of awakening humanity to its spiritual magnificence, and the mission of providing spiritual tools for global and personal transformation, and if we are going to embolden people to live their highest potential, then we have to be providing the tools. And I don't know that you may have paid attention to this, but we are not a center for spiritual awareness. We are a center for spiritual what? Living. Living. So, what does living mean? Living means we have to practice and we have to apply. Living means we just don't come here on a Sunday and sit and look cute and have our coffee, right? Or our donuts or whatever we've got. We can do that in addition to, but living itself means that you are taking what you learn here and you are applying it out there. You are practicing it out there. And as Michael Beckwith says and shares with us, one of the best ways to practice that and practice the principles and apply them, he calls the news his prayer request line. His prayer request line, right? So if we are seeing something happen on the news like we witnessed yesterday, right? We as people who claim to live spiritually, right, have the duty, yes, I said duty, have the obligation, yes, I said obligation, have the responsibility, yes, I said responsibility, to step into and practice and apply what we know to be true, apply spiritual principle, apply spiritual practices, apply spiritual tools. Because as I asked you last week, if we don't do it, who the heck is? Right? Because if we just sit here, all kumbaya and oming, right? How is it different than, thoughts and prayers are with you? Instead, we just say, I'll treat for you. Or I'll pray for you, right? I'll know something in consciousness for you. That's all valid and true. And that, as we demonstrated last week, is the place where we start. We allow that spiritual truth. We allow the ideas to come up within us to get grounded in spirit, and then we have to take action. And that's where the toolbox comes in. So I like the question, what's in your toolbox? Kind of sounds like, what's in your wallet? It's not a Capital One card, okay? Right? Your toolbox may include a Capital One card, but what's in your toolbox? How are you going to respond? What are you going to do as a person who lives spiritually? How are you responding to yesterday's events, yesterday's news? What tool are you going to use? I can give you some of them that I've shared with you over the past, 6 months, or even 3 months, even 2 months, even last month, okay? One of them, right? The anatomy of a situation. We just talked about that last week, did we not? Yep. Another one, common ground. Remember that one? Where I had the core values, where we had to find the core values with each other, common ground. Another one is check your sources. Do you remember that one? Where I invited you to look at all the different news sources and look at news sources from around the world and see how other countries are reporting on these events, what the lens is like, getting different perspectives so that you can then begin to get a broader and a deeper understanding of things. Another one I asked you for was challenge your assumptions, right? That was another one. Challenge your assumptions. When you go to the all people do this, nobody does that, everybody says this, no one says that, right? When we go to the ultimates, when we go to the ultimates, right? All or nothing, right? When we go to the extremes, we are assuming, we are making judgments. How many of you remember the drama triangle? Oh yeah. How many of you remember the empowerment triangle? Right? It's all about choices. It's all about the choices that we have, the opportunities that we have to then go and apply what it is that we are practicing, what it is that we are learning, and what it is that we are applying. In other words, we can only do so much sitting here on a Sunday, right? It has to carry outside this room. It has to carry beyond the walls of your home at home. It has to carry out into the greater world. And you, my beloveds, are the hands, the feet, the mouth, the eyes, the ears, the nose, the physical body of spirit made manifest. And it is your duty, it is your responsibility to get up there, to get out there, to speak your truth, to live the truth, to practice the truth, to practice these practices so that you too are shifting your mind and shifting your consciousness and not getting caught in the fray. In next week and in the following weeks, we're going to be working with a book by Bishop Desmond Tutu and his daughter Mfo Tutu. And that book is the book of forgiveness. This community has been asking about wanting to go deeper with forgiveness. And I think this is the perfect time to go deeper with this idea of forgiveness. And so it'll be 4, 5, 6-part series on what Bishop Tutu is promoting. So I want to give you a little preview of that in relationship to everything that has happened in the last less than 24 hours, okay? So he advocates for what he calls the fourfold path of forgiveness. And in the book, he talks about we always have a choice. when something happens, when there is an event, when there is harm or pain or hurt, there is a choice. We can choose to retaliate, or we can choose to reconnect. So retaliate or reconnect. He goes on to say that our brains are actually hardwired to retaliate. Our brains are hardwired to seek revenge, to hurt when we get hurt, to retaliate, based on an impulse that was installed years and years and years ago in our reptilian brain, right, that keeps us safe, right? So something happens, we have to attack back, right? It's about keeping ourselves safe. It's that reptilian brain. Okay, you try to eat me, I'm going to eat you instead, right? It's that kind of, right? It's that reptilian brain. But, well, let's just stick with that one. So, just because we have the impulse for revenge does not mean that there is a moral justification, that we have the moral justification to follow that impulse, to act on that impulse, right? We have all kinds of impulses, right? Like eating could be an impulse, but there are certain times when it's not appropriate to eat, right? So we control the impulse and we don't eat, right? Sometimes it used to be like you shouldn't eat in church, unlike us where it's like, hey, bring on the food, right? And the snacks, right? But, you know, back in the day with the hats and the everybody getting dressed up and whatever, oh, you unwrap a candy too loud and, people are all looking at you. Those church ladies are like, woo, right? You shouldn't be eating except the bread of Christ, or the body of Christ, right? We are so not that. But there is impulse control. We can control those impulses. So just because we might have the impulse to seek revenge does not mean that that is what we should do, right? Because what happens? Violence begets violence. If you think of an eye for an eye, we all end up blind, right? If we just keep going down that path, we all end up blind. So the revenge cycle is actually a closed loop. It's a closed loop. So what happens with your revenge cycle? So there's harm, there's pain, and we choose to hurt instead. So we choose to harm. We choose revenge. And so what we're doing when we do that is we are rejecting our shared humanity. We're rejecting our common humanity. We take revenge, retaliation, payback, right? And then that leads to violence and cruelty. And then violence and cruelty leads to harm, pain, suffering. Choose to revenge. And it's just the cycle. It's a closed loop cycle, right? Or the other opportunity is to reconnect, is about forgiveness. And so we are also, don't fret that you're only hardwired to seek revenge, because we know that's not true, right? You're not out there like, just because somebody cut you off, you're flipping them off, and then you're playing this road rage tag all the way down the road, right? There's also the possibility, because we are hardwired for connection. We're hardwired for compassion. We're hardwired for forgiveness and reconnection. In fact, ostracism, shunning, intentionally closing somebody out, intentionally cutting them off from contact is a form of punishment. Because physical contact and emotional contact is so important to the human physical body. It's just as important as air, water, and food. Without that contact, especially without physical touch, without that contact, without relationship, then our bodies start to deteriorate. Our mental capacity starts to deteriorate. We start to deteriorate. So instead, we have the opportunity to choose. And so when the harm happens, we experience the pain, then we can choose, and this is where the fourfold path comes in. We can choose to tell our story, to presence our story. We can choose to name our hurt. That's step 2. 1 is tell the story. 2 is name the hurt. 3 is to grant forgiveness. In other words, meaning seeing each other's humanity, experiencing each other's humanity. And then 4, to either renew or release the relationship. So healing itself means that dignity on this path is restored and we are able to move forward. So while the revenge is a loop, right? Revenge is a loop. The fourfold path is actually a path to freedom. It doesn't loop because you go through the process and you arrive at a place of healing rather than at a place of cycling back through. Because you're recognizing your own humanity, you're recognizing your own story, but you're also recognizing that the other person is still a person. And they have a story too. They have pains, they have suffering, they have whatever they have too. And from that place, we find connection. And then we can offer forgiveness. And then we can choose to you either stay in the relationship or repair the relationship, reparations, which we talked about not long ago, or reconciliation, which we talked about not too long ago. Or we can reconcile within ourselves and say, you know what? I bless you to your highest and furthest good. Right? Your highest and furthest good. Right? Meaning that we're no longer, necessarily having a relationship with one another. One of the things, though, that we have to be really super careful about, my beloveds, and it's easy to do when we are not practicing, is it is easy to forget that it's evil acts or monstrous acts, but it is not an evil person or a monster. Because the minute we label monster, what we've done is we've taken away their humanity, because monsters don't have the morality, the human morality. So we've taken away their humanity. And so, of course, it's fine that they did that. Guess why? Because they're a monster. And so it absolves them of their responsibility. It absolves them of their accountability. So we have to remember that it is not a monster. If we are labeling somebody as a monster, we are participating in that level of separation, that level of distancing, that level of othering, which causes the problem of conflict that causes the pain in the first place. You following? You tracking? So, again, I implore you to practice, 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 practice. Okay? So, I know some of you are going to say, but Jeff, I know it's together we rise. I know we're talking about love in action. I know this year's theme is Together We Rise. I know that the theme of the month, or the theme for right now, is love in action. And you know what? I'm tired of taking the high road, as Michelle says, right? When they go low, we go high, what have you. I'm tired of taking the high road. I believe that, good is never going to win. That's a belief that's wrapped in a story, that's wrapped around facts. That is an unconscious, or maybe it's a conscious belief, that you don't think change is possible. But if we get into that place where change isn't possible, then we're stuck too. And as I mentioned, we have the opportunity to practice, 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 so that we do not fall into the entrapment of being stuck. We are called to awaken humanity. That's awakening ourselves. We're called to practice these tools. We're called to share the tools. We're called to live the tools that are available to us and learn more. So we're going to go to tables here. And I invite you to share at the tables. I went too far. There we go. Of all the tools that we've been sharing the past, 6 months or so, I've shared some of them with you now, and then you may have others that you've employed. Like I know Frank's got more because, there's 125 of them, like we said, Frank, right? Yep. So which tool for thriving and transformation have you found to be most useful to you of late? How have you used and practiced this tool, and what has shifted for you as a result of using this tool? So the questions are here, the questions are on the table, and I invite you to spend time at the table discussing one or two tools that are, or a tool, you could even just share one, whatever, discussing a tool that works for you, discussing how you've practiced it and how it has shifted for you. Ready? Set, go. Right now it's just the drumming, so then I'll make the other one. So, yes, take out the mental trash. Thank you, Earl. Take out the mental trash. As one of my friends and colleagues calls it, the head trash, right? It's the head trash. Take out the head trash and throw it out and make sure it goes. The other thing that was over here that I really it really sparked, so thank you, Martha, for bringing this to the room as well, is that when emotion runs high, intelligence runs low, right? So to step back. The way I knew I was really fluent in Japanese, just as an aside, but this also demonstrates this point, the way I knew I was really fluent in Japanese, people say, oh, if you're really fluent, you start dreaming in the language. I'm like, well, yeah, except it's your dream, so of course you understand everything. So duh, right? But in real life, when the emotion runs high and you can stay in not your non-native language, then you know that you've mastered the language because, as she said, emotion runs high, intelligence runs low, and if you can stay in that other language while your intelligence is running low, you mastered it, okay? Just FYI for those of you, studying foreign language or studying another language. So, your assignment this week, your homework, your tool this week. Go on our website. Go to the website and in the upper thing it says what we offer. And then it says weekly tools. Click on the weekly tools. And then peruse all 125 tools that we have. Peruse the 600 plus questions that we have. Look over them. Find ones that speak to you in this moment, right now, today, or this week. And then do what? Practice them. Thank you, Cindy. Don't just look at them. Oh, aren't those pretty? Right? No. Practice them. Put them into practice. All right. So here we go. You ready, Sanja? She's ready. All right.
I'm ready. All right.
And so it is.
And so it is. All right.
Let's just come together in consciousness. I invite our practitioners and core council members to please stand and surround the sanctuary. And we come together. Breathing in, breathing out. Recognizing that the unity that Spirit is, the oneness that Spirit is what is being called for this day. That in this moment, in this time, in this space, I recognize that unity is all that there simply is this oneness, this interconnectedness, that is the one life, the one power, the one presence, the one infinite eternal, that brought forth all of life, that brought forth all of creation. Therefore, I know that every bit of the universe, every living being, every sentient being, every rock, every mineral, every atom is spirit made manifest, is the body of the one life, is the body of the divine. So I recognize that there is no separation. There just simply is this oneness, this unity, that each one of us is one with it, inseparable from it, that our sisters, brothers, and siblings, known and unknown to us, on a personal level, on a geographic level, all of it, every single one, is the divine manifestation of this one life, is the emanation and impartation of love itself. And so I call it forth here and now. We unite in our oneness. We unite in the love that we are. We unite in the wholeness and perfection and harmony and peace that we are. This is who and what we are. And so we recognize it in each other. We recognize it in ourselves. And it is in this place of groundedness, in this place of holy union, of conscious union, holy communion, holy community, that we go forth from this place, practicing our tools for transformation, sharing the message of love, being the demonstration of spirit, of unity here on earth. So I simply give thanks for it, recognizing that it is absolutely so. We stand united, and so it is. And so I invite everyone to please stand and let us say the affirmation here. I use my transformation tools regularly. Now tell me, I want to believe that you're going to do this week. All right? So, 1, 2, 3. All right. Very good. I think I believe some of you, most of you. All right. Something wonderful is happening through me right now. It is this thing called love. Love is in my mind. Love is in my body. Love is in everything I do. I am it. I share it. I receive it. And I move love forward because love lives here. Happy Sunday.